Hey guys, it's Justin from Game On. I hope you guys are doing well today. Hey, it was just Thanksgiving the other day, and that means the holiday shopping season is upon us, and we're going crazy trying to figure out what to get each other as gifts. Do you have a gamer, geek, or nerd in your life, and you can't figure out where to start for their gifts ideas for just about anything? Doesn't matter if it's a holiday or if it's a birthday, and you just don't know where to look? Well, you've come to the right video because here I'm going to help you with a couple different ideas for all your nerds and geeks and gamers in your life. Okay, so I'm going to break this up into 5 categories. We're going to give ourselves board games, we're going to give ourselves comics, we're going to give ourselves video games, RPGs like D&D, tabletop RPGs, and finally miscellaneous. Now, I'm a big proponent of trying to buy your things from a local store. If you have a comic shop or a game store around, I'm a huge proponent of trying to help our local small businesses. However, 2020 is kind of a weird year, and I understand that not everybody wants to go shopping. So I'm going to provide links in the description to just about everything so you can find it easily online. And if all else fails, going to your local shop and asking, that's going to be the best bet if you can't figure out anything else. So let's get started with the board games. Okay, so let's talk about the 3 board games that I suggest. Mind you that these are just suggestions. These are to help you kind of get your mind moving. If you find something better, that's awesome, but just looking these things up will help give you better suggestions and better thoughts to yourself on what to actually get. So let's start with Wingspan. Wingspan is one of those critically acclaimed games that came out not too long ago. It's called an engine building game. If you don't know what that means, that's perfectly fine. You're not literally building an engine where you are competitive against other people and you're trying to thrive as a bird. It sounds interesting. Trust me, it is a beautifully made game, and it is again, award-winning game that a lot of people enjoy. It is a competitive game though. So just understand that this is the game where you sit around a table and you're trying to win. It is kind of complex, so I suggest this for the people who are into board games. This isn't like, my first board game. This wouldn't be something like that. This is for somebody who's into board games and is looking for something with beautiful artwork and is just trying to, expand their library. My second suggestion is going to be Sherlock Holmes and the Thames cases, or the Thames murder and other cases. I really like this game. I actually have the Jack the Ripper campaign one myself, but this is the one that I started with. This is the game for people who want to work together, and the people in your life who watch those crime shows and automatically know who did the crime. This is that game for them. You are trying to beat Sherlock Holmes by trying to find the criminal and who did it, how they did it, all that. It's not like Clue, because Clue is more competitive, whereas this is you're working together. It's got lots of cool props. It's got newspapers to sift through and try to figure out who is the bad guy. This is for those people who love those murder mysteries and watch them for hours on end. So make sure to get this one for them. And the last one, the third, is going to be more of a party game. Warning, this does have some adult humor in it. It is Cyanide and Happiness's Joking Hazard. This is a great game to play with a party-sized group of people, and you're trying to build a really crude and hilarious Cyanide and Happiness comic strip. If you haven't seen the Cyanide and Happiness's comic strips, you might want to go take a look at them before you decide if it's great for you or not, because there is some pretty raunchy adult humor. So this is a good game if you want to get more people to kind of hang out at a party and just, sit down and play a funny game, because it'll have you really bursting at the seams with how funny it is. So your fallback on board games is actually going to be, if you can't find any of these, well, you can always go to a board game store, or you can look on Board Game Geek, or you can do a quick Google search of popular board games, and you can find one Okay, so next we're going to go on to comics. I'm not a big comic guy, I'm just going to be honest with you, but I'm going to give you the 3 that seem to be really popular and really interesting. The first is going to actually be Star Wars. It's just called Star Wars from Marvel Comics. This is the extended universe post, I do believe it's post The Empire Strikes Back. They're new, so if you wanted to start at issue 1, it's not going to take a long time to catch up. These look like good comics. I've done a little bit of reading of them. Again, I'm not a comic book guy myself, but if people like Star Wars, they should give this one a try, because it seems like Marvel and Disney are trying to make this the definitive Star Wars comic. Okay, so what if we took Stranger Things, which is got its own big fandom, and you take Dungeons and Dragons, which has its own big fandom, and you smush them together? Well, Dungeons and Dragons does take part in Stranger Things, and what if you were reading a comic of the Stranger Things cast in a D&D world? That's basically what this comic is. It's called Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons. So Stranger Things and Dungeons and Dragons seem to go together like apple pie and ice cream. They're really good together, and they're also really good separate. What if I told you that that was also the name of a comic strip by Dark Horse Comics? It's not actually a comic strip, it's actually comic books. This takes the players and the characters of Stranger Things and throws them and their characters into a D&D world. This is pretty cool. If you know people who like D&D, or you know people who like Stranger Things, they probably like both. So give this a shot. Finally, we're going to go to Batman Detective by DC Comics, which DC Comics sounds weird, because that's Detective Comics. But what do I know? I'm not a comic book reader. This is like the old school Batman comic. Like, they're on like their 1000th and 20th something issues. So this is for somebody who's really into Batman. I know that they have compilation volumes of all the older ones. If they're really into Batman, they've probably been reading these, so maybe the newest issue. And the fallback, so that's the third one, the fallback from all this is that there are comic book shops out there, and they're not as scary as you might think they are. These comic book employees really love to talk about comic books, and they'll really help you find what you're looking for. If you don't know if any of these 3 will work, go to a comic book shop and they will be glad to help you. Alright, so what we're going to get into next is RPGs. And by RPGs, I'm talking about the tabletop role-playing games that you sit around a table and play with in the vein of Dungeons and Dragons. The first one we're going to talk about is the Call of Cthulhu starter set. If you want a further breakdown of what is actually in this set, go check out Zero's Hobbies. He has a full video on it review. He'll give you a better in-depth look at what actually comes with it. However, I can tell you that this is great for somebody who is looking to get into RPGs, or is already into RPGs but wants to do something that's not D&D or Pathfinder. Something less action-oriented and more investigative. This is a game that is like more based in reality, horror reality. If you have anybody that you think would like that, that one's a good one. Okay, so our next one that we're going to talk about is actually Dungeons and Dragons, and this is their newest adventure book called Rime of the Frost Maiden. This is a kind of spooky horror / investigation, mystery, as well as action-packed kind of game. Up here, I will have a video to Thaco's Cavern. He will have a video on the 10 Towns, just kind of a gloss over of what the game is actually about. So go check that out. Again, it is kind of like a combination of The Thing and Lord of the Rings is the only way I can think of doing it off the top of my head. Lastly, we are going to talk about the Cyberpunk Red core rulebook. Cyberpunk Red is not Cyberpunk 2077, which is the video game, which I will get to. But Cyberpunk Red core rulebook is the sought-after rulebook for the newest Cyberpunk Red game that just came out. Think of Blade Runner. Think of Blade Runner, the movie, and then play it as a game. That's probably the easiest way to describe what this game is. If you think someone would like that, if somebody really likes games and Blade Runner, or that kind of neo-noir kind of stuff, that is what you want to get. Now the fallback to this is that if you can't find any of these, there are game stores around that you can ask. I know that there are some big named bookshops like Barnes and Nobles, and sometimes you get lucky and find someone who knows a lot about this stuff. Ask someone at a game store or a bookstore and they will help you out. Okay, let's go to number 4, and these are video games. Again, I'm not a huge video game player, but I'm going to give you my suggestions that I know are really popular these days. And first, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is a game that is definitely a mature rated game. I wouldn't get this for somebody who can't handle a lot of violence and a lot of deep adult themes. You get to play as a Nordic Viking who basically has the skills of a crazy assassin, and he gets to run around and do really brutal things to both good guys and bad. But if you know somebody who is really into Vikings and has a computer or an Xbox or a PlayStation, well, this is a good game. On my number 2 is, I can't believe I'm actually going to suggest this. They're half bug and half snacks. Bug Snacks, right? Bug Snacks is a game for the PlayStation 5, which is really a kiddie game. Like, it's not really a kiddie game, but it is. It's a rated E game with like these beautiful colors, and it looks like a fever dream. If you want to watch somebody play it, you should really go check out Swifty Plays on Twitch. She's been playing it. I've been watching it. And this is why I've decided that this would be actually a funny thing to give somebody. Because it's a video game, but it's all cute. But there's also some like adult themes in there that like, it's subtle adult humor. But it's rated E for everybody. So I think everybody can find enjoyment from it. It's just, again, it's for the PlayStation 5. So just make sure that the person that you want to give it to has a PlayStation 5. And lastly, Cyberpunk 2077. It might not come out until 2077, so you might not have to worry about it this year. But this is the anticipated CD Projekt Red game. It ties into the Cyberpunk Red game that I was talking about in the RPGs. Except this is a video game. More people are more willing to do this than they are willing to roll dice. So if all else fails, that's the game that they probably want, if you can't figure that out. Lastly, for this, a Steam gift card or a PS5 store gift card or an Xbox Live gift card. That's a good one because at least then they can buy it themselves with the gift card. But I'm just saying that this is a fallback, but those are my 3 suggestions. And lastly, this is just the miscellaneous. We're going to go with the Funko Pops. You can't really go wrong with those. They have so many different intellectual property rights that they have a Funko Pop for just about everything. Those are the guys that kind of look like bobbleheads, but they aren't bobbleheads. I'm sure you've seen them somewhere before. If you haven't, you can get them on FunkoPop.com, or you can get them from a local store. That's a good one. Amazon right now, if you have a Star Wars fan in your life, they are doing a Cyber Monday deal. I think it's actually their Cyber Week deal, but don't quote me on that. I know it's at least Cyber Monday where they're having a whole bunch of toys and apparel on a deep discount on Amazon for Star Wars. So I suggest looking at that. And lastly, I know that there are some people watching this that are huge into Zelda and other Nintendo intellectual properties. Amazon is doing some Cyber Monday deals for both the Legend of Zelda as well as other Nintendo properties that you can get on Amazon. So if you know a gamer in your life and all else fails and you just want to get something like that, that is another idea. Well guys, I'm sorry that this video went so long, but I really wanted to get everything in so that you only had to come here to know what you wanted to get. I understand that I only gave you 3 options for all of them, plus kind of a fallback. There's so much out there. I hope that this at least gets you thinking about what you can get for your recipient. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a happy and safe holiday season, and I hope that all of your geek, nerd, and gamer friends can game on.